Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Hat's Tutors, and in today's video we're going to be talking about market failure and specifically merit and demerit goods. But before we begin, what is market failure and why does it prompt government intervention? So if you're living in one of the Western countries, most likely there is going to be even a bit of government intervention within its markets, maybe even more in more control-based economies. But anyways, the point is the government decides to intervene when there's some sort of market failure. And the way the government justifies this is saying that the intervention is in public interest, because normally government intervention isn't really seen as desirable because most economists, or some economists at the very least, would say that the market is able to correct itself and market forces are able to readjust the market to meet changing demands and stuff. But, however, sometimes the market can't always do that, and that's when market failure occurs. And it occurs when they do not bring economic efficiency. So the government intervention occurs when there is a suboptimal allocation of resources. So resources are not being used effectively, that in a way where the most people are satisfied, aka the scarce resources are not being used efficiently in a way that achieves the highest social welfare. And that is a problem because obviously we have scarce resources and we need to maximize their utility, every single resource's utility. So what can the government really do? One of the goods that is not really provided by the free market is called public goods, because they're non-excludable, so it's not possible to provide a good or service to one person without it being available for everyone else to enjoy. For example, let's say a public park, like you can provide a good, you put it in like a community. You can't just say, oh, only house A and house B can use it, every other house can't use it. Doesn't work like that. That is a public good since it is non-excludable. Non-rivalrous, which means where the consumption of the good or service by one person will not prevent others from enjoying it. So let's say you're at a restaurant and you order a hamburger. It is rivalrous because when you're consuming the hamburger, you prevent others from being able to consume that same hamburger. But like the park, even if one person's in it, well, the park's hopefully is big enough for more than one person. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a park. But yeah, using that park example, a park definitely is a public good, and it's also the reason why it's provided by the government. And here are a few more examples. So street lighting, of course, like you can see how these really embody this, because it's pretty much just like a public service that the government provides. And let's say if these were privatized, for example, well, obviously it wouldn't really be possible to privatize them, because could you imagine private lighting? I really don't see it happening, because they'd have to be able to recognize that. Yeah, it's just a really complex thing that just doesn't make sense. But you can see our lighthouse protection, police services is really important. Air defense systems. So like if you invest in the military, the government invests in the military. You can't just say, oh, we're only going to defend like some people. Like obviously the whole country is defended by the government's defense system. Roads and motorways, TV, flood defense systems, and public parks and beaches, like I've just mentioned. So, because of their nature, the private sector is unlikely to be willing and able to provide public goods. So, like I said, you can't really privatize just street lighting. It just doesn't make sense. And other things like air defense systems is just it's not really excludable enough, because if one house has it and their neighbors don't, like how does that even work? Roads and motorways obviously doesn't work. But yeah, you guys get the idea. And therefore, the government provides it for everyone to be able to use and funds it through taxation. So that is where your taxes go. Taxes are not really hopefully not being just squandered by the government. They definitely go towards some public goods like schools, parks, and all these that are mentioned here. And then the next one is a merit good. So these aren't necessarily not provided by the private market, but the government just feels that if people left to themselves, they will underconsume it, and therefore it needs to be subsidized or provided free so everyone will be willing to use it. So for example, if if like before the COVID season, like right during regular flu season, if you're at least in Canada, you get a free flu shot if you just present your health card, I believe. And that is a merit good because obviously vaccinating people, vaccinating a population is going to have benefits for the whole population. And now, like I said, both the public and private sector can provide merit goods, but the reason that the government wants to provide more is that they generate positive externalities where the social benefit exceeds the private benefit. So, like society as a whole just benefits a lot more just from the consumption of those goods. So, I do apologize when I said education up there. Um, Education is definitely more of a merit good. You could say work training because like workers can be more productive. Health services, like I mentioned with the vaccine, public libraries. So yeah, you can have a private library where you'd have to pay, which is definitely rigorous and definitely excludable. But public libraries just allow citizens to be more educated and have a quiet place to study, stuff like that. So yeah, merit goods are another reason why governments want to intervene. But this time, it's just remember that it's not necessarily because the market fails to provide them. It's just because the market doesn't provide enough of it, in the government's opinion. And now, just a slight introduction to the last one of the other reasons why the government may intervene. That's because of the presence of monopolies. So, competition is generally viewed, if not always, viewed as more desirable, as opposed to like just monopoly, because just how much power monopolists have in the market. And the existence of monopoly power, as it says here, is often thought to create the potential for market failure and a need for intervention to correct for some of the welfare consequences of monopoly power. So, let's say a few of the consequences is obviously they can price gouge. Monopolies tend to limit supply, which drives the price up. That's why the price is so expensive. You can think about some of like the biggest monopolies right now. Off the top of my head, I can't really I know there's so many, but my brain is just it's getting a blank right now. But if you just think about those monopolies, if you imagine if there's another company that provided the exact same good, you can imagine that the price would go down. And this is where government intervention comes in. So I'm going to be discussing more about what governments can do. If I haven't already, in another video, guys, be sure to check that out on the channel if it's already up. But if not, let me know in the comments if you guys want to see it. But yeah, this is just a quick introduction to monopolies before we get into it in a future video. But yeah, that's going to do it for me today. I hope this was helpful to you. And if you liked it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. And I will see you soon.